Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope that you are well and keeping sane in lockdown. If you're in New Zealand, we're in lockdown and it has been challenging to say the least. A lot of first world, I'm just saying this about me, but challenges, first world challenges, quality problems that I have found myself facing and surviving. The most important thing is that we're staying at home and that we are making sure we're not contributing to the spread of COVID-19. So wherever you are in the world, I really hope that you're well. I'm going live to both Instagram up top, so excuse me if my eyes go all over the shop, and I've got my computer set up here to go live into the Facebook on the Facebook page as well as on YouTube. So wherever you are, welcome. I am here today to have a chat with you about the Get Gig Fit 30-day action plan. Now, every April and every September, I roll out these 30 tips that help you to get gig fit, to get gig ready. And I know at the moment we are unable to perform in our traditional way, live or busk or some of the other kind of close contact ways that we do. But that doesn't mean that we can't continue to look after our voices. And we certainly here in New Zealand are looking at about a 4-week lockdown. So I didn't plan it this way, but it's fortuitous. And here we are in week 1. So day 1 to 7, I just wanted to come live, and I will be going live every week here on all the. We're back live. There were some interruptions, but we're just going to keep rolling on with our Get Gig Fit 30-day action plan tips for week 1. So let me talk you through what we've been covering. Now, if you're following along on Instagram or on Facebook, you'll see that I'm rolling out a tip each day. So the tips so far have been what I see as the fundamentals for creating really good, strong vocal care practices, or daily rituals, as I like to refer to them. And for me, these are the top 7. Let me rattle them off. Number 1, vocal journaling. And this is really the opportunity to find a space where you are tracking how your voice is feeling. That's the main thing for me, because I think we don't allow that white space to just check in with ourselves and to think, well, how is our voice feeling today? Is it a little huskier? Is it tired? Is it fatigued? Is it feeling tight? What's happening with your voice? And this is a chance for us to track it, and ideally for 30 days, because that gives you a really good overview, especially for women, tracking through your menstrual cycle. If there are any changes with the increase in blood flow or hormones, you might just need to learn to add on a little bit of extra warm-up time when you have when you're in the lead up to your period, or certainly when you're menstruating. You might find yourself a bit more clunky, and you don't know these things unless you track. You can also vocal journal your practices or your goals for your voice for the week or for the month. And that's why I think a journal is really important. So for me, when I offer it to my coaching clients, it's an opportunity for us to track. Hey, Jasper, how's it going? I'm seeing people jumping on. It's so exciting. I'll try to stay focused. But hi, Pete / Cassandra, Empress of Awesome. How you doing, girl? H Diddy NZ, always happy to have you. Lorenzo, hello. I'm going to try and keep on top of any notes or questions. Marie, what's up? What's good, girl? And yeah, thank you for jumping in. And if you have questions, just post them, and I will do my best to answer them as we go whilst staying focused. Hey, Marianne. Hey. Okay, so I was talking about vocal journaling, and to me it is really important. So do it on a piece of paper, do it in a Google Doc so it's live, and you can cross-section it across all, cross-reference it across all your devices. And one of the things that I'm finding quite helpful is to write down, what I'm finding challenging, especially in this period that we're in. I really am finding I'm not wanting to do any structured practice. So I am singing randomly often, and I certainly, this live is about as live as I think I'll probably end up going, although I have said to my husband that we should probably do something if we get the bug to maybe have a little jam. But to be honest, it's I've been really just making sure that, again, first world problems, that I'm homeschooling my daughter because she has been in school still. The school decided to stick to the 2 weeks of traditional term. And that's been a trip. So I've been sort of within routine, but outside of routine, having lots of trouble going live on the Facebook group. I can see it dropping in and out. But yeah, what are your wins? You know, what's working? What are you learning about yourself and your voice? Journaling is great for that. So let me know if you journal, and if you do journal, is it sort of more holistic overall life, mental health, emotional kind of working through, or do you also journal for your voice? I'm keen to know. Okay, so day 2 kind of extends into the journal element, or you can journal your singing goals into your vocal journal. And again, you can write this however you want to write this. I do keep it in a couple of different places, but I think it's just whatever works. Like, I quite like the really kind of kinesthetic approach of writing things down. It feels good to me, and then I'll maybe transfer it into a document. Like Evernote is something I use for all sorts of bits and bobs. I used to use a project management tool called Asana where I could write down ideas. I also use Trello. Like, Google Docs is the be all and end all though, so you can always store it in one place, write it down, and then transfer it there. But a singing goal could be anything, like having some daily practices and sticking to them every single day. It could be extending your range to a particular note. It could be working on a particular vocal riff for agility to test yourself. It could be doing some ear training. It could be a song study. It could be learning about your vocal anatomy. Like, there are so many things that you could have as vocal goals, but it's really about what motivates you. And for me, the best thing is to have a song. So my song is, and it always has been, just because it's so challenging for me, is "And I Am Telling You," especially the Jennifer Hudson version, because I'm really stubborn and I want to do it in that key. And I think the highest note is a G5, and I can sing to an F. So it's completely out of my range. But what I do is I think, okay, well, how can I make it my own? What voice qualities can I use? And then it becomes almost like my singing goals become an approach to my practice plan, or a focus for my practice plan, because I'm like, okay, well, what voice qualities might I need to use up in that G5 range? I can't belt it. So it might be a bit more head voice or falsetto, you know, or head voice or cry quality, depending on where you come from. And you can work to strengthen that cry quality or head voice, in my situation, around those particular notes, and certainly the transition to those notes. So that's how a really specific singing goal comes out of something like having a song that you find challenging to sing. If you need help with setting specific singing goals, shout out. Like, I'm so happy to help you come up with goals for your voice based on what it is that you feel is most challenging. And I often give my artists an artist questionnaire, which it's a prompt. It asks them some questions, and we usually get to the end of the questionnaire and we're like, cool, pitch, stamina, all right, got it. And then we have some goals to work towards. So then day 3 is actually getting into the nuts and bolts, and this is where the daily rituals really kick off. And so obviously you're reflecting on your goals every day, and you might be writing them in your journal, and you're writing how your voice feels every day. But the most important things are the next 3. So day 3 is a vocal wake up using sirens. Day 4 is singing stretches, and then day 5 is speaking voice mindfulness. And so the sirens are a stretch for your voice. I'll demo them. That's what they sound like. So it's really thin, it's really small. You would do them, say, 3 times in the morning when you wake up. And what it does is it allows you to check in with your voice. So you'd be like, well, my voice isn't too bad right then. It was a little clunky transitioning between the coordination change points, or the breaks, some people call them. But if I did it 2 more times, I would smooth and clean things out. If I heard any gaps, It might tell me that my vocal folds aren't coming together, and there are a number of reasons why that might be. If you continue to do 2 and 3, you might find if it's consistent, that it's something that we need to work on in our next practice, or focus on that smoothness, or the agility and lengthening and coordinating changes throughout your vocal folds. So it kind of tells you a lot. It could just also be that you're vocally tired and you need to look after it. You're dehydrated a little bit. So you kind of get a story. You get some information, some feedback on how your voice is. Aside from that, it's the antidote to all those things as well. So you continue, and it adds agility, and it extends your range. And it just really is one of the best exercises that you can do for your voice. So go and check out the siren videos if you need more information, that are on my YouTube channel, and certainly that are rolling out on the Facebook page at the moment, and the Insta page. This thing stretches will stretch out your major muscle groups, and then specifically around your larynx, so neck, jaw, tongue, and anything else that you need to help relax the vocal structures that help to make sound. Oh, hey, Ron. Nice to see you. God, it's so exciting to have so many people on. I love it. So these stretches are just an opportunity not only to relax, because remember, the number one enemy of the singer is tension. You really aren't able to overlay any singing techniques onto an instrument that is constricted or tense, and is unable to be agile and move throughout the different coordinations that it needs to move through. So we want to make sure we've stretched our voice with our sirens, and then we stretch our entire body with our singer stretches. The other thing that singer stretches are great to do, and I often chuck in a rag doll as well, which is coming later in the 30-day action plan, is I really like to change the channel with these stretches. So like if have been working all day on something that's non-creative or non-singing, I will do those singer stretches as a way of like changing the channel and flipping a switch from like whatever I was doing before into badassery singer mode, you know. So I use them mentally as well to change the channel. And then the other one is the speaking voice mindfulness. So this is such a great hack that I learned, and that honestly has been life and voice changing for me, is that I learned to use my speaking voice as an opportunity for strengthening my singing voice, because of course they're the same instrument, right? So it's just that we tend to speak more in an average day. Then the ratio between speaking and singing is more weighted towards speaking. Even if you're a professional singer, you might be in the studio for 2 to 3 hours, but then you'll walk out the door and be gas bagging probably for longer off and on. And you also, when you're in the studio or at a gig or practicing, you're really thinking about your technique. You're focusing on using your voice. And then when we go to speak, everything's just kind of relaxed, and we just don't even think about it, which is exactly what I did. So I would just like totally let everything hang out. And I wouldn't use any thought or mindfulness around balancing my tonality, which, as it turns out, was a way that I could strengthen the areas of my voice that were weaker. So when I'm like this and I'm really heavy, like I can belt and chest voice, speech quality out sound till the cows come home, because that's where my voice would hang out all the time, you know. And so what I really needed was more dexterity in my head voice or my cry quality range. And so I tried to speak a little bit younger, essentially a little bit lighter, so that I was thinning out my vocal folds and applying less workload, which taught me, whilst I was speaking, that it taught the larynx and the vocal folds how to coordinate in that position. And then when I went to sing, I was like, oh, this is amazing. I can actually utilize that same quality or coordination much more easily whilst I was singing, because my voice already knew how to do it. And I practiced at length whilst I was speaking. So when I'm really tired, if you see me and I'm talking like Helen Clark, you know that I'm really tired, because it means that I've just kind of let all my technique out the window, and I'm not keeping that lighter tonality to balance out my natural mad voice. But it's good fun as well, and there are lots of other voice qualities that you can roll in and use to play around with and to develop your voice. I'm glad, Heather, I'm glad that you, hey Aro, how you doing? One of my favorite duos in the whole wide world. Yeah, I'm glad that you think the Helen Clark thing is hilarious. And I can tell you some deeper elements about the voice qualities when we get to that, and what the primal sounds that we make and how they affect our ability to tell stories. And that certainly translates into how we speak. So really quickly, why I call it the Helen Clark voices, and it's kind of also a little bit of my Jacinda Ardern voice as well too, who's smashing it, by the way, is that we often tend to match our voices in environments. So one of the very popular sociocultural voice techniques that we're hearing a lot in young people is the Kim Kardashian vocal fry thing that's going on. And that's, firstly, let me preface this by saying there is no bad voice use unless it hurts, right? Or unless you can't sustain it. So you should be able to explore your voice and use it, make whatever sounds you want. The key is, are you intentional about it? And do you know that you're doing it? Because if it's a default setting, that's fine. We can work with that. But we really want to learn how to have great control over our instrument and be able to pull it out of its default settings and do different things so that we can tell stories better. We have more tools that we can use to tell our stories in a better way. So the Helen Clark thing is an interesting one. That one's my natural one, but you'll often see women that are in power positions have a lower tonality and speaking voice because it tends to match the environment that they're in. And often politics is very much a male-dominated environment, and so you'll hear people matching their tonality in that way. And so, I joke about the Helen Clark thing, but it is a great example of the different ways that you can play around with your voice. And so when you're practicing, using lots of caricature is a fun way to explore your voice, your speaking voice in particular, or just imitating other singers and seeing what is it about their sound that they're doing that you can try to not emulate so that you sound like them as an original performer, but so that you can figure out what ingredients are being utilized when they're making a particular sound. It's a lot of fun. I have tons of fun doing this, but I digress. So the speaking voice mindfulness is not only about balancing or using in your speaking voice what you need so that you can I call it practice without practice, hacking your practice, but also it's about being mindful of things like clearing your throat, really loud laughter, which is something I used to do, and also shouting, so when you are when you're in a club and you're using your voice a lot and you're in a bass boosted environment, it's really important to understand how you can change the frequency or the filtering that you're using, or resonance in your voice, to be able to get up in the frequency space so that you're not competing with amplified sounds. And this applies for on stage as well. And that's me going a wee bit deeper with speaking voice mindfulness than I intended. But when we get to learning singing technique in the 30-day action plan, I will tell you a little bit more about those voice qualities, because it's my life. I literally get so excited, as you may notice, about talking about these things, because they've opened up so many options for me to explore my voice and tell the stories in the way that I want. So it sounds like me, which is the win. Okay, day 6, hydration plan. So the other core elements that you can have as daily care practices is to make sure that you keep hydrated, and day 7, which is a sleep strategy, making sure you get enough rest. And that's different for everybody. So I just want you to consider how important sleep is for rejuvenating your voice and in your body in general, and making sure that you're getting good quality sleep as a part of your vocal care practices. And then the hydration plan, because our body is made up of so much water, but in particular, the covering of our vocal folds as a mucosal covering requires a lot of hydration. It takes, depending on the person, up to 72 hours to hydrate. So you want to be drinking enough water for your body to keep yourself hydrated all the time. And I gave you a formula, which is 0.03 times your weight in kilos. And it's going to spit you out an amount in liters. Now, it's highly likely it's going to be more than the 8 cups a day, and that's okay, because this is a equation for peak performers, so sports performers or sport athletes. And you know, if you've ever had a chat with me about singing, I 100% say that singers are athletes. And so I approach our hydration from that same point, that we actually need to be super hydrated to account for the fact that that particular, our vocal folds are everything, and they're the source of the sound. And we need to make sure they are pliable, well hydrated, and ready for action. It means we can have a healthier, produce sound more efficiently, be healthier, and have stamina with it. So we're not going to have to roll any other support techniques in unnecessarily. I'm talking about tension to make the sounds that we want to make. So hydration is massive, so massive. If you find yourself in a position where you haven't hydrated, you're feeling a little bit dry, you can do, as part of your hydration plan, some topical hydration, which is steaming. And you can also do a salt gargle. Now, it sounds counterintuitive, but what a salt gargle does is not only does it great for oral hygiene, but we also have a very small amount of sodium in our saliva, and it kind of helps to reintroduce that back in a little bit. Now, it's obviously not scientific if you're just putting a teaspoon of salt in a glass of water and stirring it and gargling, but it's a quick fix. You know, it's a quick fix. So steaming just simply with water, and I have a couple of gadgets that I've used over time. I used my garment steamer for ages. I had a room humidifier that I would take with me when I was touring so that I could kind of moderate the temperature of the entire space, like in hotels and different environments. And now I have 2 gadgets that I use. One is a cup. I should have brought them in the room, but I'll go deeper into it another time. One is like a little oxygen mask, and it has purified ultra pure water that I use to hydrate with. And all the pros, well, not all the pros, but a couple of the pros like Gaga and Ariana Grande use the same instrument, use the same gadget. And then there's this sort of like plastic container with a funnel on it that you just pour hot water into, and you kind of put it over your mouth and nose like this and breathe into it. And I also have, as part of my hydration plan for when I'm traveling, a thing called a humidifier, which is a plastic mask that has a little foam filtration system in it, and it just covers your face like that. I look super extra, but what it does is just keeps my voice hydrated while I'm flying. Now, obviously, that's not happening for a while, and so I will probably use it. You can actually use it when you're sleeping as well too. If you're in a new space and you want to regulate the humidity in the air a little bit better and recycle your breath, essentially, is what it's doing. So those are my top 7 tips for this week. Now, a whole ton more tips are rolling out every single day for April. So please stay with me here on the Facebook page and on Instagram and YouTube. The videos are already actually up because I do this every April and September. So you can kind of search for them and you'll find them there. But I've also been figuring out ways that I can always motivate myself first and then usually pass that on to you. I've created a little calendar that has each tip for each day that you can click on, and it'll take you to the video. And so I'm going to get that organized little page, and I'll pop a link into the groups, different platforms, so that you can get that for yourself. Plus, I've had some ideas of some other things that I want to do. I have always had a checklist, which I'll put up as well, and a little workbook I've decided to create so that you can basically have your own little tracker and make notes about how you've been feeling over these 30 days, and you can share it with me, or you can just reflect upon it yourself. But I'm going to roll all of those out in the next, I might do one a week, so look out for that in the coming days. But yeah, let me see. No one's got any questions. I really appreciate seeing you all live and your wonderful comments. Please look after yourselves. I know we are in unprecedented times, and the best we can do is, stay as positive as we can. I know it's hard because, believe me, I almost turned up to this live stream wearing my pajamas. So it's been very motivational for me to have this Get Gig Fit 30-day action plan, to be able to um, have a plan to follow throughout these 30 days. As it turns out, haven't got any gigs coming up necessarily, but I'm doing it with the future in mind. And that's what I would love you to hold on to, is that I know things are bonkers, bonkers, bonkers right now, but they will come right. And when they come right, you're going to be so ready. Oh, you're going to be so, so ready. Cassandra, you're so welcome. Thank you again, everybody else. Have the most amazing day. And I will see you at the same time next Wednesday to chat through more things and answer any other questions that you have.